Hello, Giant Tank 1400 here, and today we're going to talk about Oscar versus Ozpin in RWBY, and also like how Oscar's the everyman and Ozpin's the paradigm character, and it's like two souls into one body. This has like a really interesting dynamic for me, because on one hand, Ozpin is actually teaching Oscar. On the other hand, he's also kind of taking more control over Oscar as time goes on. Like you get to see like in Volume 4, Osmond actually had like a tough time like even like speaking to Oscar at first, and he didn't do it that often. But as time went on, Osmond became more and more like able to talk to Oscar. And then in the beginning of Volume 5, we actually see that Oscar can give Osmond the reins, but at the end of Volume 5, we see that Osmond actually has the ability to take over Oscar's body at any time, though fighting and that kind of stuff still wears Osmond down a great deal. So it's obviously that Osmond is growing in strength and growing in more control over Oscar's body, which is in a little bit of ways scary, because I really do like Oscar's character. And the way Osmond defined it is that the two souls would become one, but they retain their memories. That might not actually be the case. He might not be telling us the whole truth. It'll be more like one soul actually takes over the other, and though the memories are retained, it's really Osmond, or whatever his first name was, like way back when all this curse happened, who actually takes over the other person's soul and body. So I do think this is like a very interesting dynamic, because we don't know like Osmond's like true motives here. He states this as a curse, but in one sense he gets eternal life, if you will, but to another sense it might actually be a curse, because the other person he's taking over might actually cease to exist because of Osmond basically taking it over. And Osmond does it because he thinks it's best for the world in order to stop Salem. So it's kind of like this whole thing where Osmond's doing the wrong thing in order to do like the greater good to stop Salem, if you will. However, Osmond might even have more of a wicked side, where he kind of wants to rule, if you will, because in a sense he was ruling over the four kingdoms. In a sense, if you will. I mean, the other, even I think it was Ray stated that the other headmasters are loyal to Osmond, so that would make Osmond in control of like all of Redmond except for the little portion that Salem has. Also, Osmond had like access to all four relics, and you would think that the relics would have enough power to take out Salem, since Salem herself actually wants the relics. We are pretty much guaranteed that the relics are more powerful than the maidens themselves, and I'll get into more of this in a different video. But because Salem's not really interested in the maidens, she's just interested in the relics, and only interested in the maidens to get the relics. And that really amps up Salem, original Osmond, and the relic's power like far beyond that of a maiden. That little like rabbit trail beside, like Oscar has like disagreed with Osmond at certain points in like Volume 5 and stuff. In Volume 4 he was arguing with about going to Mistral, but in Volume 5 he didn't really agree with Osmond turning Raven and Crow into birds. We know this, and also he didn't really agree with Osmond's stance against Hazel as well. Oscar tried to actually reason with Hazel, whereas Osmond actually said he's just gone, there's no saving him or whatever. He has a wound that cannot be healed, or whatever the exact words were. Also, and there's a hint way back in Volume 1, Chapter 3, where Ruby asks Blake what book she's reading, and Blake says it's a man with two souls fighting for control. This actually could be based on, like, it's one of those fairy tales that are actually based on a true story, where one of Osmond's like previous selves was fighting with Osmond for like control over that body, and Osmond won. And Osmond has gotten better at like manipulating his like host body as he gets stronger and stronger. Now, this theory about like Ozpin actually fighting for control over Oscar's body is really nothing new. I've seen the theories out there for it. I mean, before I even saw the theories, I kind of like thought about it as well myself, and I instantly thought about that book that Blake read back in chapter one, volume one, chapter 3 of RWBY. So, but that being aside, I still think it's an interesting dynamic that Oscar is a character in one sense who is the weakest fighter, who is the most inexperienced fighter, doesn't really have enough knowledge about the whole situation at all. But on the other hand, Ozpin is a character who knows more than anyone besides Salem and other select few characters. And he's extremely powerful on that. He was actually more powerful back in his day before he gave up his power to the maidens. And on top of all that, like, he is a paradigm character. You already went through all his growth, whereas Oscar is an everyman character. He's just starting to go through that growth to the point that we don't even know what Oscar's main goal is. He just seems to be right now following Ozpin's lead, which I think at one point is going to shift and change. Ozpin's going to do something that's really going to like shift Oscar and like select few other people's perspective of Ozpin. I mean, a notable character is definitely Yang and Jean that will probably at one point betray Ozpin. Well, not betray, just leave Ozpin because of stuff they actually figure out. I mean, he'll still have some loyal people because his cause of beating Salem's so good. But on the other side of it, what he has done to do that, to try to do that, is actually really wrong. And I think it will end. This conflict will end with actually Oscar beating Ozpin and like kind of ending the vicious cycle, if you will. But that being aside, it's like that's probably going to happen towards the later end of the series, if anything. And it could be in like like one of the volumes that Ozpin's actually the main villain of that volume. But who really knows? Anyway, that's just kind of like a theory, kind of talk about my thoughts on Oscar versus Ozpin, or Oscar being the everyman and Ozpin being the paradigm character. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.